What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here with the Gameday Reaction Pod. Eagles win 34-10 over the Giants on Sunday. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so on the YouTube page, Birds vs. Boys. And then also, we have a lot of new subscribers this week that we got based off of some of our previous videos. So if you're new to this, I do the reaction video for the Eagles. Kevin does the reaction video for the Cowboys. Both wins this week, so both going to be good videos. And then we do the big show. Tune in. We drop it every Thursday for that and look ahead to the week that is. But before we get to that big show, let's talk about the wins this week. So the Eagles win 34-10. It turned into a clowning. If you listen to Pardon My Take, they always do the clowning segment with Billy. That's what it felt like in the second half. Throwing the offensive linemen, pick sixes with the linebackers, stuff like that just turns into an absolute blowout. And then all of a sudden your backups are in. But before we get to that part of the game, it was obviously a tale of two halves. The first half looked like Big Ten West football. If you're a college football fan, you know what I'm talking about. It's the 3-3 game between Illinois and Northwestern that starts at noon on ESPN2 and is sponsored by Bush's Baked Beans. That's what the Giants and Eagles look like in the first half on Sunday. It was pretty abysmal from the Eagles side. They started with fumbling the kick return on the opening play. They had a near interception on their opening drive. It was just kind of a mess. Add in a missed field goal for Jake Elliott, who's been great so far this year. And then that's when you tell, like, everything's going wrong. But even in that half, and people were upset, and Jalen Reagor's running the wrong way and getting booed, and the team's getting booed. Even in that moment, it was really hard to panic because you could tell from very early on that the Giants just didn't have it. Like that offense wasn't going to do anything. And they made their plan pretty clear. It was to try to get Saquon involved and kind of take the pressure off the quarterback. If it got into third and long, they weren't going to attempt to convert. They were just going to play the field position battle. Again, Big Ten West football, win the field position battle, comes down the field goals, stuff like that. And that's what they were planning to do. They didn't really take any shots. They didn't try anything cute. They were just, we're going to run on first and second down. And if it sets us up into third and manageable, then we'll let Jake Fromm throw since it's his first start. And if he doesn't, if we end up in 3rd and 12, which they did quite a bit, then we're just going to concede. We're just going to wave the white flag and we're just going to punt and try to win the field position battle. And that's honestly what kept them in this game for a while, was the fact that they were able to win that field position battle in the first part of the game. But that can only hold you for so long because this is the NFL. So here's the stat line for Jake Fromm. This is kind of why the game tilted the way it did. 6 for 17 for 25 yards. He did not finish in the top 32 in terms of the PFF ranks for quarterbacks this week, which is kind of remarkable considering there are only 32 teams. In his performance, he says, I don't think it could have got any much worse than that. I feel bad for him. They brought Mike Glennon in. I genuinely don't believe that this is a Jake Fromm issue or a Mike Glennon issue. I mean, yeah, are they ever going to be stars in the NFL? Hell no. But this is a Giants problem that I'll get into later in the show. But this is an Eagles show, so that's what we're going to be talking about. Let's get into the late second half. We try to always take it in chronological order. So late in the second half, one of the big stories in the NFL lately, especially with the way the Chargers go for it, is going for it all the time. The Eagles had a position where they had the ball and it was 4th and goal from the 2. And a lot of teams would have went for it in that position just because analytics tells you it probably is a good chance that you succeed in that position. I liked what Nick Sirianni did in kicking the field goal because and people have talked about this in terms of like that analytical game can't be on spreadsheets. I like that teams are being more aggressive. I think that's the wave of today's NFL, but you have to factor in the human element of it. And I think that's what we're kind of getting lost in the analytics. I love analytics. I love the way it's taking the game, but you got to factor in that human element. So for the Eagles on Sunday, you're down 3-0 to a bad team at home, playoffs on the line. Nothing has gone right for you that entire half. Just put a field goal on the board so you feel good about yourself going into the half, which they did. It's tied at 3. And then, all right, you've got 30 minutes of football to just prove that you're the better team. And going into that game, they believe they were the better team. They were the better team on paper. And it was kind of similar to Tuesday against Washington. you got into that half 10-10, and you're like, all right, we have 30 minutes where we think we're just better than you. And that's what it got to. It's the scene in Fast and Furious in the first movie when they're jag racing and Paul Walker hits his nitrous too easy or too soon. And then all of a sudden, he loses the race at the end. He hit it too fast. And they knew this was a team, just like on Tuesday, the Giants on Sunday just didn't have a lot of gas. They weren't going to be able to take it for the full 60 minutes. And that's what happened. So, human element, 3-3, go into the half, and then just prove that you're better in the second half. And that's what they did. Came out and immediately just the floodgates open. Interception on the first drive. That turned into a touchdown for the Eagles. Long punt return by Jalen Reagor. That set up another touchdown for the Eagles. And they just poured it on. It ended up being 34-3. Starters were pulled and the Giants had a garbage time touchdown. But in that second half, it was like everything that you would like to see from a playoff team. That's what makes you excited. And if you're upset about the first half and how it went, we just don't have time for that because this happens to teams and this is the NFL. You know, you got to win your clunkers. So that's what they did. And look what they did well in the second half. Running game, special teams, defense. So the defense shut them out the whole day, capped it with a pick six for a touchdown. Special teams, you had the long return that set up the offense in a day where field position battle wasn't going your way. And then all of a sudden you flip the field with that punt return. Shout out to Jalen Reagor because he's getting booed every single time they announce him as a punt returner lately. You kind of just feel bad for him at this point, but that was perfect. And he had also had a great catch on the field goal drive in the first half. And then obviously the running game, which has been a story for most of the year. Doesn't matter who they plug in there right now. Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, even Kenny Gainwell got some run. They're just behind that offensive line, just pulverizing people. And so you get all of those aspects and you put all those elements together. And that's what you look for in like every single playoff team. You're like, all right, if you're in the second half of a playoff game and you've got to run 6 minutes off the clock here and string together some first downs and keep the opposing offense off the field, can you do it? Can you make a play on special teams that just flips the field, changes the momentum of the game? And can your defense get stops in key moments? Can they force turnovers that kind of lead for opportunities to the offense? And that's exactly what the Eagles did. Obviously, they're not going to be playing the Giants in the playoffs because they're a bad team, but it doesn't matter because they did the things that you're supposed to do, and you don't create your own schedule. It's who you're given. All right. So the past 2 weeks, they played a shorthanded Washington team and then this Giants team, but they did well in those three aspects of the game. So I thought the most important drive of that second half, going back to the running game situation. So in the late third quarter, and then early fourth quarter, they had a drive that lasted about 6 minutes where they just went down the field methodically, strung together first downs. You could feel just if you played Pokemon back in the day, remember when you fight the other Pokemon and their HP would just slowly go down before you captured the Pokemon right when it was lifeless? That's what that drive felt like, where their HP on the Giants was just slowly going down. And then at the very end there, you cap it with one of the best moments of the year, the Lane Johnson touchdown catch, which also a lot of times you see offensive linemen catch it. They catch it with their stomach, which is not how you're supposed to do it if you're a receiver. You're supposed to catch it with your hands, not with your body. Lane Johnson caught it with his hands. It was fantastic. He's such an incredible athlete and a great moment for him considering everything that he's gone through this year just to get back on the field. And that offensive line, can't say it enough. We stress it every week. And I know the streak came to an end of 175 plus rushing yards that they tied the 1985 Bears with. That's pretty good. I know that came to an end, but again, they were dominant on Sunday. Big drives in the second half where they created massive holes that you or I could have ran through. It's great for Lane Johnson. Jordan Mailata probably should be in the Pro Bowl. I know he didn't quite make it. And Jason Kelsey will be going to the Pro Bowl. They were great. And even like having Landon Dickerson back, like him having this growth and just having a guy in the draft where we've complained for so long about just like missing on early picks. And then you have a guy like Landon Dickerson who can come in and is filling in and spot starting right away and playing well. And it was great to have him back. Nate Herbig played well. I mean, they were just creating holes in that second half that were just gaping. And I think early in the first half, why they weren't running right away is because everyone knows that they're just trying to run the ball and just shove it down somebody's throat every single drive. So I think they're trying to, and you saw it early in the Washington game as well. They're trying to pass early so that people respect the pass and then they can't just key in and load the box. If you saw what the Eagles are doing against the Giants, they knew that that quarterback wasn't going to take any shots. They know that they didn't want to pass. They had 5 people with their hand on the ground. They had 8 in the box total. Like they were just selling out to make sure Saquon Barkley never made it to the next level, which is what they did. That's what the Eagles are trying to do early in games, is make sure people don't do that to them. But in the second half, they're just wearing on teams, and it's great to see. Again, back to this, playoff type caliber teams are able to do that in the second half. You can wear on a team and get first downs on the ground and make the plays that you need to do to have time of possession go in your favor in the second half. And that's what they did. So it was a cool moment, and it was just great to see from the team because, like we said, we are talking playoffs now, and you got to start doing things that playoff teams do. Some other keys to the game. I thought Devonta Smith was awesome. He's just, I have never seen footwork like this from him. Like, just the awareness, the balance, the ability to know where his feet are at all time. Amazing touchdown catch. Amazing a one-on-one catch in traffic on the deep ball from Jalen Hurts. Quez Watkins as well had a one-on-one deep shot that he caught. It's just fantastic to see the wide receivers balling out. I think Devonta Smith is a great receiver. I think Quez is a solid wide receiver 3. They need, like, in the offseason, if they could really target a bona fide wide receiver 1 to help the growth of Devonta Smith. I mean, there's no ceiling for this offense if they can add another weapon like that. So we'll see. That's way down the line, but you can just see how the pillars of success are there, and you got to build on that foundation. And you kind of just see, like, Devonta Smith is just such an important part of this offense. The attention that he gets, the catches that he's able to make, catches in traffic. And going back before the draft, that's what Kevin and I talked about. You can look at his weight and you can say to yourself, all right, he's skinny, like he could get lit up. Is he going to be able to fight through press coverage? But if you watch a lot of his catches at Alabama, he's going over the top on people. Like, he makes contested one-on-one catches because he's got great hands. He's got solid footwork. He clearly has great hand-eye coordination with the ability to toe tap we've seen these past few weeks. So I think he'll continue to grow. The weight doesn't really mean that much when you're able to make contested catches like that. We've seen a bunch of guys 6'4" in the league, and you say, oh, he's like a basketball player. But then you throw it up to him, and he doesn't have the hand-eye coordination to bring it in. So I'm excited about that going forward for Devonta Smith. And then obviously Jalen Reagor as well. I'm at the point where I know he's not Justin Jefferson. He's not even Brandon Ayuk. He's not even Michael Pittman from the Colts. He's probably, like, aside from the Ruggs situation, which had nothing to do with football, he's probably, the worst receiver of the top 2 rounds in a draft that was stocked with wide receivers. And we can boo him, and that's what will happen, but it's not his fault that the GM screwed up. But on the booing conversation in Philadelphia, it is just not that hard to figure out. If you play hard and you win, nobody will boo you. If you make plays, nobody will boo you. And even if you don't win, if you bust your ass, people still won't boo you. They will still love you. Allen Iverson never won a title here, but he played hurt all the time. He busted his ass. TJ McConnell isn't exactly Steph Curry, but people loved him here because he just played hard. And that's what you see the past 2 weeks. Jalen Reagor's been making some solid plays. You know, on Tuesday night, he was 3 receptions for 57 yards. Some of those bubble screens were awesome. And in the first half, he drops that ball, and he runs backwards on the punt. Like, it's just like bonehead mistakes. Yeah, they're going to boo you for that stuff. But in the second half, huge punt return. He also had a great catch on the sideline. I think that was in the first half, but a great toe tap from him as well. You're not getting boos. You're getting cheers. It's a pretty simple equation to figure out. Just play hard, play well, and everyone will cheer for you. But I think he's starting to put it together a little bit. Again, he'll never be Justin Jefferson. That'll haunt us for the rest of our lives. And J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is never going to be DK Metcalf. And we missed. But it's not their fault. It's the GM's fault. We just like to see a little bit of growth from Reagor, which we've seen these past few weeks, and make some big plays for that offense. And then one more thing on the offense. I don't want to end it with a bad note, but those wide receiver screens are, like, so close, but they keep either blocking in the back, getting a head start. So hopefully they're able to kind of clean that up, because you can see it on the Reagor one that he dropped. It looked like he had a ton of space in front of him. And to end it on a good note, again, I think not a lot of people, but I saw a little bit of it where people were upset with how the first half went. You're playing a bad team and the playoffs are on the line and the Vikings are losing on the scoreboard, and there you are tied at 3 and you're down 3-0. I just thought that they looked like a team who was playing on an extremely short week. didn't really practice this week given the circumstances, and didn't have their head coach at practice because he had COVID. And that's what they looked like for the first half. And then once they got organized, they completely obliterated a bad team, which is exactly what you're supposed to do in that situation. So I'm not really too concerned about the first half because they put it together. It just took a while because I think all those circumstances that I mentioned played a huge factor in it. And once they got organized, once they regrouped, they were totally fine. They blew the doors off the Giants in a division rival game while the Vikings are losing, and they secured a playoff spot for the time being. So I think that's great for them. Now let's look ahead. What we've got coming up. By the time you hear this, the Saints and Dolphins may have already played, so we may know a little bit more, but it's just hilarious to even suggest this. But there is a very plausible scenario where the Eagles in week 18 are resting their starters and the Cowboys are not. I don't know how we made it to this point, but the Eagles could secure a playoff spot next week. And the circumstances in which they need to do it are not exactly far-fetched. The 49ers need to win against the Texans. The Eagles obviously have to beat the Washington football team. And the Vikings need to lose at Lambeau Field against the 1 seed Green Bay Packers. It's not the most far-fetched scenario here. It's not like the season when we won 44-6 and we needed 3 teams to lose in the 1 o'clock slot. And then also we had to beat the Cowboys at 4 o'clock in order to make the playoffs. It's not exactly that complicated for us right now. Just 1 win by the 49ers, 1 win by the Green Bay Packers over the Vikings, and 1 win by us. Oh, and also the Saints need to lose either the Dolphins game, which again may have already happened by the time you hear this, or next week. So, and the Eagles hold the tiebreaker against the Saints. So it's an interesting situation considering we were 2-5. Our coach was talking about Flowers. People were projecting us to lose to the Detroit Lions. And then all of a sudden, here we are where we could wrap this thing up for a playoff spot with a week to spare. I don't know how we got here, but I'm not exactly complaining. I was doing these shows and talking about Kayvon Thibodeau with like a top 5 pick and how we could have 3 top 10 picks. Now, all of a sudden, all 3 teams that we have a first-round pick for might make the playoffs. Who cares at this point? We got 3 first-round picks. I'm really glad to not be talking about like draft scenario and draft position here while it's still December and talking about playoff position instead. So that's perfect. Eagles win, completely obliterate the Giants. It's 2 back-to-back big wins over division opponents. Slow starts, yes, but guess what? There's a lot of unforeseen circumstances that led to that. They get the full week's rest. We'll see what we have with the Miles Sanders injury, but you go right back to Washington football team. I'm a little bit nervous because anytime a team gets their ass kicked the way Washington did, people have pride. They're not going to let that happen again. So I think you're going to get a solid fight from Washington football team, especially considering now you're going down to FedEx Field. We know that place is a dump. It is a shithole. There is shit that literally comes through the bleachers. That place always kind of worries me just because it's a house of horrors for most people who have to go there because it's just such a crappy stadium. But I expect it to be filled with Eagles fans, similar to 2019, where you're just going to see that lower bowl just kind of filled with Eagles fans with a chance possibly to clinch a playoff spot, as crazy as it is to sound. So Eagles win 34-10. We are close to the playoffs. If the season ends today, they would be in the playoffs. Another big week next week against that Washington football team like we just talked about. Need a win there. Need a big win on the road. We'll be back. We record Wednesday and we'll be live Thursday talking about everything in the NFC East as we come down this final stretch. Both of our teams could be in the playoffs and both of our teams could be playing against each other in the playoffs. So tune in for that. Thanks for watching now, and please subscribe to Birds vs. Boys Pod on YouTube.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds vs. Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upside alert. Upside alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there. There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach. That
Be the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.